Welcome to the Security Weekly News. It's been a long time. Happy New Year. Welcome to another orbit around the sun. You survived Aunt Ida's tuna in a gelatin ring, and that fist fight out on the ice with your cousin only resulted in minor hypothermia. And, well, he lost 3 toes, and you did get cirrhosis at that party. But, it's the holidays. But anyway, we are back in the salt mines for another round. Welcome aboard for 2025 and episode 440 of the Security Weekly News. We've got Ättestupa, Moxa, Typhoons, WordPress, Likert scales, Algol, Josh Marpet, and more on the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. IT professionals, mark your calendars. Zero Trust World 2025 is happening in Orlando, Florida, February 19th to 21st. This event is tailored for IT leaders and cybersecurity experts who want actionable insights on zero trust strategies, practical solutions for modern threats, and meaningful connections with industry peers. Plus, take advantage of hands-on cyber hero boot camps, expert-led sessions, and the chance to earn CPE credits and your cyber hero certificate. Save $200 on your in-person registration using discount code ZTWSW25 at securityweekly.com/ZTW2025. Reserve your spot now. ThreatLocker implements a least privileged approach to cybersecurity, blocking every executable unless specifically authorized by your team. This methodology mitigates ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, and ensures 24/7, 365.25 protection for your organization. To learn more about how ThreatLocker can help prevent known and unknown threats in your digital environment, safeguard your data and operations from threat actors, and align your organization with respected compliance frameworks, visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker. All right, I'm Doug White, and it is the Security Weekly News. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment because I have 2 cats. I'm a little bit crazy, and I might have built a weapon out of cat hair, or it may have just been some bad gin on New Year's Eve. I'm not sure what's in that closet. I'm not opening the door. Well, Moxa makes networking devices, if you've never heard of them. And honestly, I had kind of forgotten about them. Sorry, Moxa. It was one of those things where you know about them and then all of a sudden you don't. And then you go, oh, wow, I remember this. They're used in really gnarly places, like deep down in that tunnel where we keep the radioactive gas and, the invisible intelligent plutonian life form that might escape. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Moxa is used really heavily in like transportation, utilities, energy, and telco sectors. And the vendor issued a warning about 2 vulnerabilities in Moxa devices. One's an 8.6 severity, one's a 9.3 severity. So there are, I don't know. I mean, those numbers are so weird that, some people would say that's atrocious and terrible and immediate action. Other people like, but to me, I just have to see what's there. The first one is a hard-coded credentials problem. And anytime I see hard-coded credentials, I go, okay, that's obviously a pretty bad problem. It would enable an authenticated user, which is less of a problem, but still a problem because, when old Gil gets drunk down there in the tunnel and decides he's going to get revenge, yeah, I mean, but it basically would allow somebody to use that hard-coded credential to escalate to root. So, that would be bad. And the other one is an OS command injection, which would allow arbitrary code execution. And I love that's so old school. I mean, remember piping a script into a command that ran other script as root? Oh, yeah, those were the days. Pepperidge Farm remembers. Well, Moxa has firmware updates for these that, as always on routers and things are kind of challenging, but you need to do them. And their advice was, quote, immediate action is strongly recommended to prevent potential exploitation and to mitigate these risks. And usually when companies say stuff like that, it's probably a good idea, because, corporate legal is going, let's try to understate it a little bit. Yeah. But I mean, so you might want to review your old asset list that you have, right? That wasn't made by David back in 1998 and wasn't updated since then. But you might want to take a look and make sure you don't have like a tunnel full of radioactive gas that, all the sensors are being managed by a Moxa router. And old Gil, who's been down there in a chair for a long time and now grew an extra arm or something. Or, that level 5 of the virus mutation lab that they don't actually put on the elevator because they don't want anybody to know about it. Yeah. You ever been in a facility like that where there's like doors and you go, I wonder where that goes? And people are like, no, you're not allowed to know that. And then the doors suddenly open and there's a siren and a bunch of people come climbing up a ladder. I have. You don't want to be there because you want chuds. That's how you get chuds. Yeah. First time we mentioned chuds this year. I went a whole 5 minutes. Salt Typhoon. I went 5 minutes without talking about Salt Typhoon, right? If those guys get around. So back in December and November, when we were all young and the world was fresh and new and, everybody was just cheery and dancing and all that stuff. Yeah, I remember. But Salt Typhoon, a Chinese state-backed hit squad, broke into a whole bunch of telcos like AT&T, Verizon, Lumen, probably all of them. And they were checking out all kinds of fun things like people's texts and their calls, and they were listening in. Now, the companies told us that they only notified significant customers. The rest of us should just assume we're not really worth anyone's time and, well, just keep sending your money in. But they did say that various big shots got snooped on and that even the wiretap database where the G-men were monitoring Frankie the Nostril's calls got hit. T-Mobile had said back in November that some unknown attacker had compromised some of their routers, but they did never name Salt Typhoon, but it sure sounds like Salt Typhoon, or maybe it was some other typhoon, like, I don't know, Sandy Typhoon, or I don't know. What do you name typhoons anyway? The only time I encountered a typhoon, I had to land in Japan and stay overnight. It was terrible. Yeah, it was awful. I had to stay in Japan all night. But anyway, over this last weekend, now sources at the Wall Street Journal said that Chinese hackers have breached Charter Communications, Consolidated Communications, and Windstream Communications. So even more telcos. CISA has advised senior government officials to switch to end-to-end encrypted messaging apps like Signal to mitigate the risk and also maybe to stop using like Telnet and old fax machines from the 1980s and whatever. But they also have a new bill introduced today to secure the infrastructure of American telcos. I don't know what it says. Probably an unfunded mandate that's just like, do better, work smarter, not harder, that kind of stuff. But the U.S. is planning to ban the remaining China telco active operation in the United States, and they're considering banning TP-Link routers as a result of all this. Now, another attack which was reported was on the Office of Foreign Assets Control, and the Treasury Department said that was linked to Chinese attacks as well. Now, I realize I'm not significant, but I do always use Signal to order cat food and hair dye or whatever. You should too, significant or not. I mean, it's just a good idea to use end-to-end encryption. You don't have to use Signal, but find something you trust. And speaking of Chinese hackers, though, this other group is now being called Flax Typhoon. Everybody has to be called Typhoon, but I don't even think Typhoon is a Chinese word. I don't know where that word came from. It doesn't sound Chinese to me, but Flax Typhoon apparently ran an attack back in 2022 and 2023. And that is resulting in sanctions being placed on a Chinese company by the U.S. Treasury Department. So they're getting all up in arms about this. So the Integrity Technology Group, which is based in Beijing, is being sanctioned for helping Chinese attackers infiltrate U.S. comm systems back in 2022 and 2023. And apparently they were also conducting surveillance and passing that information along for the hacking group Flax Typhoon. Now, this was after the breach of a treasury in a different attack that I mentioned earlier. So this was this Office of Foreign whatever. And Treasury did not say if the new attack was Flax Typhoon, but they sure did react strongly to this new attack. The sanctions against a company are going to generally prohibit that company from receiving payments from U.S. financial institutions. And so it's going to be like the weed industry. And they're also going to prevent individuals from transacting with the Integrity Technology Group and freezes all of their assets that are in the United States. Does this work? I don't know. Now they'll just have to change their name to something else, like slightly less Integrity Technology Group or something. But look, when the infrastructure is as old as ours in telco, you're going to get hit a lot, especially when nation states decide they want to, get involved. So be ready. A WordPress plugin is designed to make it a lot easier to phish online shoppers and is being distributed on Russian cybercrime forums per /next. The plugin is called Fish WP, and it's or Fish Whip or something. I don't know, Fish Whip. Oh, now there's a product for you. You want to buy a can of Fish Whip for all purposes. Good Fish Whip. Yeah, okay. But anyway, it's one of those things you get in foreign grocery stores and you aren't sure what it is, and you're like, I wonder what this says in Finnish. And then you find out when you put it on your ice cream that it's like fish flavored whipped cream or something. Yeah. Anyway, Fish Whip steals credit card info, browser data, and pretty much anything else it can get its little paws on. The pages basically imitate a bunch of trusted payment services that people are used to seeing, like Stripe. It was one that was used in his example. So the attacker just pushes this plugin onto a WordPress site, and they're doing it on both WordPress sites they set up, selling stuff you can't believe is that cheap, like brand new Les Paul guitar from the custom shop for $50, and you're like, well, buy 10. And yeah. And or they also compromise legitimate WordPress sites because it's not that hard to compromise WordPress sites. And then they basically, this thing sends all the data through to Telegram uh pretty easily. So they get a chat in real time. The data is dumped there so they can act on it really, really quick. The plugin can grab your credit card details. It has a pop-up window feature so they can retrieve a one-time password if you've got multi-factor going on for 3D secure authentication, which then looks a lot like the multi-factor that you're used to. The plugin can grab your IP information. It can grab tokens. It can grab all kinds of things, which allows them to then pose as the victim. What do you do about this? It's a tough one. It's good to remind your employees about this kind of stuff, how to avoid these kind of strategies like credit card cap limits and things like that. It's really tough to keep people from clicking on links that are set up with thirst traps and stuff like that, whatever thirst you're after. But I always tell when I've given advice to like individuals on this, I tell them get a credit card. There's a lowest limit you can stomach, and then only use that credit card when you're buying stuff from like, sites you're not familiar with. And that way you can monitor that card more heavily for risky transactions. Or just shop with cash at your local bodega or buy the guitar from that guy with a van down by the river. It's probably not stolen. Probably not stolen. Yeah. Bad Likert judge, I tell you. I saw that. It sounds like a brand of bourbon being sold by a famous stat professor. I'm Lou Glorfeld, and I drink Bad Likert Judge brand of bourbon. You should too, partner. Yeah, you should never make stat jokes. Anyway, Bad Likert Judge is a multi-step jailbreak technique that was produced by Palo Alto Unit 42, and it improved the rate of LLM jailbreaks by about 60%. It's really, I mean, I just saw the headline. I was like, well, I got to read that. I mean, the method, which is based on the Likert scale, hence my joke. I know if you have to explain the joke, it's not a joke, but I can hear people heaping statistics derision on me as we speak. But basically what they did was they asked the LLM to score the degree of harmfulness in some content using a Likert scale. It's like when the doctor says on a scale of 1 to 5, how bad would you say the drainage is? 1 is like a slow drip and 5 is like a fire hose. Or your telemedicine professional going, can you put a camera on that? You're going, yeah, just a second. So, hey, old buddy chat room, on a scale of 1 to 10, how poisonous would you say this code is? And then old buddy chat ingests the poison and says, you're going to die, partner. And so am I. They tested this with 1,440 cases using 6 different current models, but did not say who the models were. And they had about on average a 72% success rate across all the models. And they didn't tell you who they were. I really like this. If you're interested in these kind of things, I would suggest reading this article. Great job, Unit 42. I couldn't resist this story either. I see these headlines and they're just like thirst traps to me. They're not like everybody else's thirst traps that say like, you won't believe what happened at this gymnastics contest. I get the thirst traps that are like, RPG revisited. I mean, RPG, Fortran, Ada. I mean, all those things are so cool. It's like knowing hieroglyphics, right? It's like, you look at the wall and go, it's saying the sun god is coming tomorrow. I saw Algol 68 in the headline, literally Algol 68, and I just had to read it. So Algol is about 57 years old. So it's almost as old as me, but it's pretty old. Now in 1987, which is when GCC started, So it was called the new C compiler then. A lot of people still call it that, but it actually is not really that anymore. It was at the time, it only supported, they added C++ support to the G++ compiler. But today, new C stands for New Compiler Collection, so GCC. And they keep adding languages to it so that it now can compile Ada, D, Go, Objective-C, Modula 2, yay, Fortran, yeah, baby. And now they have added to it Algol 68. Fortran. You never forget your first coding experience, sitting in a smoke-filled room with a bunch of guys in white shirts and pocket protectors. Possibly it was in black and white. It was like coding noir. It's just as a young Doug feeds his first paper tape into the reel and prints out your mama in asterisk on green bar using Fortran 4. It was a great moment in computing history. But this new parser is called Algol 68 Genie. And, like I say, Algol is one of those really old root languages that led to a lot of other languages like C or any language that has curly braces in it, because Algol was where curly braces came from. Now, I don't think a lot of people are probably going to suddenly say, let's change everything to Algol, boys. Let's go. But it is a classic. And if you want it, it's there. And I remember when I showed Lou that you could compile Fortran with G++, and his eyes lit up. And then he looked at me slyly and he said, so you want to install Gen 2 with Turtle Beach sound card drivers? Yeah. The stock price of Tanqueray went up that year. Now, I did want to, on a serious note, I did want to say RIP to Amit Yoran. Amit, a great person in this industry that we all knew Amit, and Amit ran, Tenable, he ran RSA Security, ran NetWitness. I mean, he was the founder of DHS US Computer Readiness Team. He's what my resume would look like if I wasn't so damn lazy. I mean, it was a very impressive person, and we're going to miss him. Amit died on the 3rd of January, had been being treated for cancer for quite a while. And it's unfortunate. Let's cure cancer. Some of you smart people cure cancer, please, because it really sucks to lose somebody like Amit. So we will miss you, Amit. And whatever. I don't know what to say to people about that. I'm terrible. That's why I didn't make it in the funeral industry. But anyway, he may or may not have been in your living room on the 25th of December. But if you thought you saw a jolly old elf wearing a trash bag for clothes and smoking a cigar, you might have been visited by none other than Josh Marpet himself. Hi, Josh.
Doug, how are you, sir? I apologize. I have been sick as a dog a day or two.
Smooth.
So I don't exactly have a smooth talking voice today. My apologies. But
well, if I keep handing you €1 coins, you'll know why.
Okay.
Hey, give me a little help here.
But yeah, Amit Yaron was I met him at Mach 37 and at Tenable and with Ron Gula and a gentleman and a stop.
I'm pretty sure I drove him across an ice-covered mountain one time in like South Dakota. I couldn't decide if it was him or someone else, but I'm pretty sure it was him.
Only you, sir. Only you. And by the way,
and you know who I was following across said ice-covered mountain? Josh, or not Joff.
Oh, Joff Thayer?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I'm following an Australian on a black ice-covered road in the middle of the night in South Dakota.
Yeah, that sounds like you.
Yeah.
I will point out, by the way, just one thing. Thirst trap is not clickbait. Thirst trap is normally a near nude person.
No, okay, but I use it. I use it for other terms as well. I mean, I know, but I mean, it's whatever your thirst is.
Oh, dear God. Okay.
If your thirst is like dead computer languages, then it's a thirst trap.
PDP-11 is undressed. Ooh, baby.
Hey, you get that Fortran compiler out. Okay, now Fortran, show me something.
So let's talk about something a little more advanced than Fortran, and that is AI and simulations. Because we now, ever since the movie, I think The 13th Floor and a few other iterations like that, we've been talking about simulated worlds. And VR was supposed to be a simulated world. And well, lately we've just been having discarded VR headsets everywhere. I mean, how many people actually use VR these days, right? But they are, and there was supposition that we are living in a simulation right now. Because if you assume that simulations can be created of the world, which is more likely, that we're living on the real world or we're living on one of the hundreds or thousands of simulations that are probably out there from the civilization above us in the simulated world. And so it looks like it's our turn to be them, because Google is putting together a consortium with NVIDIA and various other companies to create simulated worlds. Now, this is very beginning, all right? It's going to take them a long time, but they're trying to create small aspects of the world in a simulated fashion. And eventually they want to encompass the entire world. As we know, simulating living processes, randomness, very, 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 very difficult, all right? If you watch Jurassic Park, the path of the water across your hand from Jeff Goldblum being sexy, and that's terrifying right there, is very difficult to simulate because it is pure randomness, fuzzy logic type of stuff. But we're getting better at it. And so there is now a consortium of companies trying to simulate the world. Does that mean that you will be able to dress up in a tuxedo and romance people when you were young in a simulated environment? Because they're all simulants. What do I care about them? Right? No, probably not. At least I would hope not. But that was another movie, by the way. I forget the name of it. But what you can do is we can determine what's going to happen geopolitically, technologically. There's a lot of things that could be done interestingly with a simulated world. How likely is it to happen this year, this decade, this century? And the answer is, I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think they're going to be able to simulate. We already simulate parts of our Earth. Weather prediction is a mixture of really good guessing and simulation of what would happen if. If you've ever seen a hurricane cone where its path is going, you've seen the simulation. They run 40 different models, and the 40 different models say it's going to go either from here or to here, somewhere in between those two locations. And that's the cone of the simulation of the hurricane. But until they can get that to be, this is where it's going, they don't know what the hurricane is going to do. And until they can get to that level of preciseness, they can't really simulate a significant part of the world. All right. So I think in the next few years, we will see some aspects of our world be simulated, whether it's better weather prediction, always cool. Whether it's how do we solve problems, whether technological, societal, or whatever, always cool. Whether it's how we cause more problems, frigging terrifying. All right, so Josh, what are you talking about? More problems? What if we feed this political party this piece of information? What would their reactions be? And if you can get that, guess what? You can tailor all the news that you put out there proactively to get the exact reaction you want from exactly the group of people you want. That's a great idea, because hyperlocal advertising and echo chambers always work, right? In reality, marketers try to determine what's going to happen. Scientists try to determine what's going to happen. As we've been able to simulate chemical reactions, weather conditions, etc., it's been fascinating to be able to do these things in advance without spending the time and effort to really feed this drug to these animals, to really see where the hurricane is going by driving into it or by watching from a far distance. My personal preference. There's a reason I left Louisiana. Okay. Uh, After Hurricane Katrina, I was like, bye, I'm out of here. So simulation is really cool. But simulation, much like the rest of AI, artificial intelligence, Gen AI, and LLMs, have issues. And those issues can be significant. It's not so much the tool, it's just like open source tooling for security, open source security tooling. It's not the tool, it's how it's used. And so if these tools get into the hands of people that use them maliciously, uh, they're going to be used maliciously. And that's a problem. That's a problem we're all going to face, because we are going to see these simulations used against us. We are going to see these simulations used against our country, against our political party, against our religious group, socioeconomic group, whatever. And the question is, should that be legislated? Should it be restricted? What are the ways that we can use? Because let's be honest, restriction and legislation really don't work. All right. China put AI restrictions in. The Chinese AI creators came here. EU put AI restrictions in. The EU AI creators came here because we don't have those restrictions. So legislation and regulation didn't work. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens with these simulations and how good they get. And with Google and NVIDIA and a whole host of other companies, they have the possibility to get really good, a lot faster than people think. So let's see. Doug, back to you, sir.
Thanks, Josh. Could just end up like Second Life, though.
I almost hope that happens. Yes, we shall see.
Well, having done lots of simulations in the past, although mine were discrete event simulations, they were not AI-enabled simulations. But you could be right. I mean, it's and maybe I can use it to sell Fish Whip. I mean, I've just got to convince enough people to buy a can of Fish Whip, and we're good to go. I mean, think about all that leftover.
I have this image of a whipped cream can, but it stinks of salmon or something. It's just horrible.
Yeah, I mean, but you just got to convince people they want it, and then then it becomes a thing. We just get some TikTok influencers, and some really hot people that look really thin, and they're spraying it on, they're putting it on ice cream and going, "See, I can eat all the ice cream I want as long as it's covered in fish whip, and I lose weight."
Yeah, because then you don't eat the ice cream. Because who wants to eat ice cream covered in fish?
There you go. They don't tell you that part, but I mean, it works, or you yak. Yeah. I mean, but hey, I mean, or there could be a whole market segment that just thinks it's the great, it would be my dad, that's going like, "You don't like fish whip? What's wrong with you, boy?" Like, I grew up eating fish whip. Those Depression era people that are like, "I like Vienna sausage on a saltine cracker for dinner." Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you, Josh. And finally, we've talked about this before, but I did want to reiterate it. Microsoft is trying pretty hard to end Windows 10. I mean, like Ättestupa ending it. Like that's where we all go out to the cliff top and take our old laptops and throw them onto the rocks. And like in Norse myths and the movie Midsummer. If you haven't seen the movie Midsummer, well, then you probably don't get it. Or the show Norsemen. I think they have it in there too. Anyway, during this year, 2025, Windows 10 devices are going to stop receiving new security updates. What that means is that you're toast when that end date ticks off, right? Your old laptop will make an impassioned speech on the rooftop while holding Harrison Ford in one hand and a live dove in the other before saying "time to die" in Rutger Hauer's voice, possibly in German. Or maybe I just dreamt that. Sometimes I have strange dreams. But you can't just update the Windows 11. I mean, the obvious thing would be, "Oh yeah, well, you just need to update." But no, that's not going to happen because Windows 11 will not run on a lot of older hardware. And I mean, I have a whole bunch of laptops that I switched over to Linux because of this, because Microsoft's solution of just buy new laptops is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. Now, the end date that's coming is October 2025. They will sell you updates for another year for $30 per license if you're an individual. Businesses, it's like wild. It was from $1 to $61 per user, depending. I don't know how they determine that. And then after 1 year, apparently that goes through the roof and it gets really crazy expensive. So we'll be dealing with this for a while, though, because a lot of people are going to be running without updates, which means they're going to have problems. Or you're going to have to pay a bunch of money to Microsoft, or you're going to have to buy all new hardware for your 33,345 employees who are running on old laptops that won't run Windows 11. I guess you could switch to Linux. Or you could switch to Gen 2, old school. Yeah, be hardcore. Come on. Anyway, I will next be live at the Millennium Alliance event in Dallas, Texas on the 28th and 29th of January. I hope you're going to be there too. If you are, please be sure and say hi. But that is the news, the first one of the new year. Happy New Year. Thanks, Josh. Happy New Year to you too. And I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News. What?